Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning.
Good morning and welcome back to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. As you know, it's Youth Wednesdays where we bring lively discussions related to young people here on the island of Tobago. Now, Natalia told me to ensure that I shout out Julia Adams, who has been tuning in to our programs every morning. So thank you so much, Miss Adams, for your continuous support. Now, Natalia and I had a discussion earlier, a little banter, that would have basically allowed us to lead up to this moment right here, where we would be discussing whether or not students should be allowed to go to school with this particular hairstyles. In studio with me this morning is Miss Royan James. She is a content creator and hairstylist specializing in locks. We also have Miss Yolanda Marcel, PTA president for the Signal Hill Secondary School. And on your way, we have Miss Abeni Taylor, who is a teacher at Bishop's High School. And we have Janae Jones, who was a past student. So we have an interesting discussion coming up. I'm sure that you all tune in and, share your comments, right? So before we get into the meat of everything,
yes.
I know that we're talking about hairstyles, but can you guys share what was your favorite hairstyle going to school as a Royan?
Yeah, of course. So, in my later years of high school, when I was in fifth form, it was during COVID time. I loved a slick back ponytail. Oh my goodness, that was my favorite. Slick back braided ponytail, long. That was it.
How long?
Not long.
Okay, how about you, Miss Marcel?
Well, in our time, it didn't have so much of an issue with what the hairstyle was. So, we had two ponytails, one ponytail,
Oh, okay.
made a bun.
Yeah.
Love the bun.
The buns.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I was an Afro girl because I struggled to curl my hair. So if it wasn't an Afro, my mommy would put my hair in some neat cornrows going back and stuff like that. So that was basically my style.
Nice.
So school is open. Students are back out to school and they are getting ready. When they get ready, they put on their full school uniform. But it seems that oftentimes we have issues with the hair, right? Most students like to try different things. They want to do slip backs. I see the slip backs are a little different now.
Yeah, they are.
A little different from what they used to be, right? The boys want to mark up their hair and so on. However, it seems to be an issue for the education system, right? So we would be discussing whether or not students should be able to go to school with certain hairstyles. So last year, the Ministry of Education updated their policy for hairstyles in school, right? So I'm just going to brush through it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So the National School Hair Code, right? Students should maintain neat and clean hair at all times. Hair that crosses the shoulder length should be tied back at all times for safety reasons. Locks, twists, plaits, afros, cornrows shall be allowed for all students in compliance with the individual schools. Female students shall be allowed to wear hair extensions, including weaves and braids in compliance with the individual schools. Wigs and dyed or colored hair for students are not allowed in exceptional cases as determined by the school principal. Approval may be granted to the students. Hairstyles that obstruct the normal view of others are not allowed except for religious reasons. Eyebrow markings and eyelash extensions are not allowed. Haircut parting designs should be simple. Intricate designs are not allowed. And hair ornament should be in compliance with the individual school rules, right? So basically, the Ministry of Education has national guidelines, but it's up to the individual schools to implement whatever measures they see fit according to said guidelines, right? So the first question I really want to ask is, in your opinion, should students in Trinidad and Tobago be allowed to come to school with a hairstyle that they choose
Based on the guidelines?
based on the guidelines?
Yes.
Yes.
Based on the guidelines.
Based on the guidelines.
But of course, some people take advantage of freedom. So, but I guess we'll get to that later. But based on the guidelines, yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about that?
Well, they do.
They do.
Students do come to school with whatever hairstyle they choose based on the guidelines.
Based on the guidelines. So I recently saw a post on social media. This is in Trinidad, where a schoolgirl was suspended for having braids in her hair, and the braids was pulled back, right? But in the guidelines, it said that students could wear their extensions once it's pulled back. So do you think that it's unfair in that case for the school to suspend the child?
I think it was probably based on the length of her hair, maybe.
Length? No, it was pulled back and wrapped up in a bun.
And she was suspended.
Suspended.
Yeah, there's more to that story.
There's more to that story.
Because I see some buns that look like a whole bird nest.
So you think that...
So I believe that the hair might have been all the way down to her butt, and in trying to bring it up, you have this big bulk
behind you,
which would affect one of your rules about obstructing
division
but
of
from
other
what
students.
I
have seen based on picture that was provided, that was, well, it could be based on my opinion as well.
Exactly.
I think that the bud was rather small in comparison to the, well, I know that a lot of girls have the fox, fake locks now, right? And usually if it's really long, you'd see that they have these big buns, right? So it's not that, was basically traditional braids that she wore, right? But we had another case here in Tobago a couple of weeks ago where a male student, he wasn't allowed to participate fully in his graduation because of a hairstyle that he wore, right? And he was asked to leave their graduation ceremony. He had some patterns and hearts in his hair, right? So as we see, we have some issues where that is concerned between whether or not students should be allowed to creatively express themselves whilst trying to follow the guidelines. So do you think that with the intricate designs for the guys, right? We know we have top of the line barbers now that are accessible, right? Where the boys want to mat their hair up and, style it up in whatever way that they see fit. Do you think that, the rule that says that they cannot allow male students to have intricate hairstyles, do you think that that rule should be reviewed?
No.
No? Why not?
Because that is not what school is about. When you're in school, it's bad enough that they have all this hair, and so they have these pick combs in their hair, and you have to be constantly telling them, you can't walk around with those combs stuck into your hair. Every time you look around, they're fixing the afro and all of that. It's very distracting. You come to school, you learn. During the August holiday, the Easter holiday, you have all that time to express yourself and whatever. But again, like we're saying, we're in agreement with according to the guidelines given. The idea is to not be distracted by the fashion statement.
And then I think too, we also have to remember that it's also not only based on the guidelines, but based on the individualities of the school.
Right.
Yeah. So even if a child might be going to one school and they maybe got away with it, that doesn't mean that they will go to their school and get away with it also.
Get away with it. So do you think that, okay, I understand the statement where a lot of people say that, school is not necessarily about a fashion show.
Right.
You see the slickest of ponytails, the swoopest of edges, right, the sharpest of haircuts and so on.
Yeah.
But do you think that by not allowing the students to express themselves through their hairstyles, that you're diminishing their creativity in a sense?
I I don't necessarily think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think for students to be able to show their creativity, that is why we have subjects like cosmetology and coding and textile and woodwork and that kind of thing. Just like Miss just said, school is not necessarily about a fashion show. And of course, you can be creative in that way, which is why they extended it to locks and weaves and that kind of thing. But of course, we can't take advantage of the privilege that we are already having. Because back in my days when I was going to school, of course I had my ponytail, but it was not necessarily allowed. And yeah, people had locks and that kind of thing, but they would have been asked to leave as well. You know, so yes, we have the privilege, but we definitely should not take advantage of it.
Do you share the same sentiments?
Oh, definitely.
Right.
And everything we're always trying to push boundaries. If you're in school and you really want to express yourself, let's see some grades.
See some
If
grades.
if you really want to express yourself, let's wear the uniform with pride.
Yes.
You know, neat. Not having your pants hanging, your skirt shorter than it should be.
Yes.
If you want to really express yourself, your pleats neat, flat, your shirt neat, clean. There is your expression.
Yeah, so I think sometimes students often get carried away in terms of spending so much time fixing their hair when it should be in class or
There you go.
preparing for the day of school and so on. So that is something, that's an interesting point to take into consideration. But as I was mentioning earlier on, this is Generation Z, this is Gen Z. So the way how this generation basically sees things, they like to push boundaries if they see that it is a bit unfair. So prime example, girls may not be allowed to wear their hair past their shoulders. However, you would see a teacher coming to school with her hair past her shoulders. You might see her hair dyed in like rainbow colors, let me say green, red, it doesn't matter. You might see her hair dyed. You'd see her, with elaborate hairstyles, right? So in the eyes of a student, it could be a case where, okay, if this teacher could do this, why can't I, right? So this generation is one that would question everything and try to push boundaries. So in that sense, do you think that something needs to be done there? If it is, we're telling students, listen, you can't come to school in that hairstyle because it's distracting. It will be distracting the class. Yet still you have a teacher who is teaching the class in front of said class with an elaborate hairstyle. What do you have to say to that?
I remember being younger, and when my mommy told me to do something, if I asked why, she would say, I don't need to give you a reason why. That's what she would say. But in this regard, I understand the point of view, but at the same time, the student and the teacher has two different roles. The student is coming to learn, and the teacher is there to teach, to impart the information. So yes, the teacher may be going against the guidelines, and yet again the guidelines are for the students. But the teacher is one older than you, she's more mature, and her intention or his intention would not be to distract the class, quote unquote. If anything, that is good, because if they're quote unquote distracting, then that means that the students would watch the teacher more, they'll pay attention. So that's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you have to say for master?
Well, I love how you were using student and teacher. One is an adult,
Yes.
and one is a child. And what we are having is children wanting to be adults before their time. And what these rules and guidelines do is they help a child to learn to conform, learn to focus. When you're in school, your one focus is to learn, is to be guided, is to be trained, is to be taught. That is your focus.
Yes.
The teacher is an adult. They've already gone through this. And teachers do have guidelines. Teachers do have their own guidelines. What you are again talking about this Gen Z, we have this new generation of teachers that come to school looking as though it's not school. that they're not teaching, that is not teenagers, especially in the high schools. And even in the primary school, these young people, they have eyes, you know, but you as a child, you are limited, restricted in what you can and cannot do, where you can and cannot go, what you can and cannot say. And you have to learn to work within guidelines, because when you become an adult, if you are raised to break rules as a child, when you become an adult, you are continue to be a rule breaker.
Yes.
And what happens to our society? You know, and that is where it starts. We don't look at these little things as being instrumental in shaping the mind of a child and the behavior and pattern of a child. But when you are allowed to push boundaries and get away with it as a child, when you become an adult, now where you are an adult, no one could tell you anything. You don't care for rules. You don't care for anything. You know, so even though it may seem unfair, you are still a child. You are constrained by rules and regulation that you have to follow, whether we like it or not. Like you were saying, when your mom tell you something, it have nothing to do with whether you get an explanation or not.
Yes.
You do what you're told because that's what you're told to do by the adult in the space.
Yes.
So,
So
you know?
I like how we basically had this differentiation between teacher and student.
Yes.
Each has their own role, each has their own purpose to play within the classroom setting, right? And I like how you mentioned that these rules are there and set in place to teach students discipline, because sometimes you tend to have students who, you know, go overboard sometimes, right? So we'd go for a break and we'd be right back. Don't forget to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning and welcome back to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. It is Youth Wednesdays and we're having a healthy discussion about students and their hair. Now we have in our midst Miss Abeni Taylor, who is a teacher at Bishop's High School, and a past student, Janae Jones. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
No problem. So we were just getting into the thick of it in terms of hairstyles. We already discussed that, you know, the rules are there to ensure that students are disciplined, right? However, Janae, you had an experience where you had a situation with your hair and you basically put out of class. Do you care to explain the situation?
Okay, so I wasn't put out of class, but I had my hair in natural twist, my natural hair, and then I was asked if I could hold it back. I was asked respectfully, and I understood, and I was like, okay, cool, miss, no problem. I didn't see the issue with it because I understand as young people, we need guidance, and it also helps prepare us for the real world, because I know recently the rules in the THA has been removed, and it is expected that public servants will dress respectfully and look in a mannerly way. So I think it just prepares us for the outside world. I don't think it's a form of discrimination or anything of that sort.
Yes, a form of discrimination, which, you know, is a big thing when talking about hairstyles within the school space here in Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of people see it as a way of, you know, disrespecting in a sense the natural hair of, you know, people of African descent in Trinidad and Tobago. And well, I have heard of some situations in other schools where it is you had persons with naturally long hair who were allowed to have their hair out. However, you have persons with thick 4C hair who weren't allowed to do those things. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, I could start by saying, for example, some persons, it depends on the perspective. From the perspective of the administrators or whoever the person's putting the rules in place, they believe that if there is a uniform, we expect that you conform to the norm of how we want our uniform to look.
the perspective of those who are wearing the hair, they may say, but this is my form of expression. This is how I wear my hair. This is my natural. I can't do anything about it. However, you are in an institution where there are rules that we ought to conform to. I don't see an issue with an institution stating that we prefer that your hair be back in one with a bun neatly and not touching your shoulders. I understand that. So I am in agreement with those with administration who would like that students have their hair in a certain way, boys and girls. I'm in agreement with it because there's a uniform. You don't see, for example, a police officer with long locks coming down here and a hat. You don't see those things because there is a norm that you have to conform to with regard to how they want how their institution should be showcased to the wider public. That's just my perspective. There are several, but that's what I believe.
Maybe you care to jump in here.
Well,
Very polemic topic. Very polemic.
It really is. Just piggybacking on what Miss Taylor said, I completely agree with what she said. About definitely the distinction for boys and girls, because usually teachers they tend to more focus and zero in on the girls when really and truly fellas they have the star and the broken heart to the back of the head and that kind of thing too. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. Care to jump in with myself.
How passionate I am about rules, and there is a time and place.
Right.
No one is trying to stifle your expression, but there is a time and there is a place. You cannot be looking like the club at school.
Right.
Because you're not going to go to the club looking like school. So we have to learn, and that is part again of training them up.
Yes.
You learn what is for where. And what we have now is where there is no proper expression. Since we're dealing with expression, there's no proper expression because you cannot tell when someone is going somewhere official. You cannot tell when they're just going down the street because they're in jeans, no matter where. They're in the look doesn't change. And I was raised where when you were going to an official setting, you saw it from the time you left the house.
Right.
You know, how you dress up, where you going? Yes, your dandan and thing, and you knew when the person was just going down the street. And so this is something we need. Yes, Gen Z want to express themselves, but we need to set guidelines and help them in their expressing themselves to understand this is your expression at this place and this is your expression at that place. And that is what this does. It helps to bring some type of guideline in place and help them. If we're saying that we want to let Gen Z express themselves as parents and as teachers, we are teaching you how to express, where to express, what to express. That's what it is.
You actually brought up a very interesting point in which you said that, okay, you have a hairstyle for school, you have a hairstyle for
Going
outside,
out,
going out, etc. And I think you brought up an excellent point because students would not wear their school uniform to go to chow.
Right.
Students wouldn't wear their school uniform to go to paint,
Yeah,
right?
understand.
So I understand that point. I understand that point entirely, and I agree with it, right? But the parents, we're talking about the students, but the parents, oftentimes the parents are the ones who are paying for the boys to get their hair cut. They're paying for the girls to get their hair done and braided, etc. What do you have to say to parents who are allowing their children to do as they please?
I think as a teacher, I had to come in on this one time because I felt it in my core. Parents train up your child the way they should go, when they are when they perform it. So I understand that parents are training their children for their household, but when your children are associated with an institution that has rules that governs that institution, by no means you must conform to rules because those are the rules that govern this institution. If you are part of the institution, I don't see an issue with conforming to the norm. However, if it is outside of that institution and you decide for your your child or want to dye their hair, curl it, do whatever you wish, cut in a kind of X up thing. You know the styles, cut up the eyebrows. That's fine when they are home or they're in other places. But when it comes to going to an institution, I reiterate that, where there are rules, there are things, guidelines that you must conform to, I don't see a problem with just obey the rules, because that is what governs us. Because if it is, you have your home. In my house, you can't come in with shoes, because whatever gyms you pick up outside, they come in my house with it. That's the rules of my house. But I could come with you and walk straight in your bedroom with my shoes on, because you accept that. But if an institution doesn't accept certain things, why not conform to it? Because that is how I want my space to be run, and that's how I see it, because I'm very passionate about this. So that's why I want to express it as such.
Well done, well done. I'm in full agreement. Well done. And I am always coming down on parents, because I believe strongly that a child is an expression of the parent. You know, because when you are at home and the child come home, Mommy, you wouldn't believe what Miss say and what Sir say. And you know, don't bother with them. They don't, So the child comes back to school.
That same energy.
You know, I don't know what's wrong with them, because that is the conversation that was just held at home. And so the parents, they send their children to school. Girl, don't bother with them now. Just kind of let me try and fix this up here. You know, and the nonsense continues. And then we wonder why the children are rebellious. We wonder why the children are not productive. And then we want to blame the school for not managing the children. So you run your little zoo at home, and you raise your little pets at home, and then you release them into society, and then you say, what you mean, you can't deal with that, and they're so nice at home.
For me, I worked at a hair store for a few months, and the period that I worked there, I went into the summertime, and so parents would come in with their kids, and I'd be helping them, and they would say, yes, it's summertime, she could get it red now, she could get it green now, she could get it blue now, and I'm in full agreement with that, because that parent then understands that summertime you can have your freedom, school time you have your black hair, you have your ribbon in your hair, you have your hair up in your bun, neat and dandy, you know, so yeah.
You know, we're seeing now where a lot of young girls who like to wear their ribbons, right?
Different schools have different rules. Because
Regulation.
where I am at Bishop's, first to third form, you have to put in a ribbon. But there are other schools, girls don't have to wear ribbons, and that's fine. That's your rules for them. I still love my ribbon.
At my school, 1 to 3rd, ribbons.
Well,
I think it looks so cute. I don't understand this generation at all. The thing does look so cute.
The ribbon is probably make it look childish.
But the thing does look so cute, because you still want to tie up string in your hair anyhow. When you're not in school. I am kind of real with it. When you go out, when you're going out and you make your big thing on top and you do your wraps and stuff, you get the color cloth to match, and the ribbon matches the uniform. Come on now. And you put it in. I learned to make all type of designs with ribbons, you know.
With the finger, do it.
And you wrap it, and you make the knot, and then you open your little bow and you pin it in. The thing looks so cute. You have your hairstyle, whatever, and you garnish it.
Garnish.
I do. You decorate. Well, you will garnish. You decorate. You add to it. You enhance. You stick that nice little color inside of it. Oh my God.
But as Miss Marcel, as you brought up earlier, a lot of young people, as you said, sometimes they try to grow up before their time. Right? So the little ribbons and stuff that, for me, I love my ribbon. Ain't nobody could tell me to put no ribbon in my hair, because I always had a ribbon, right?
Right.
So I understand that point entirely. But in terms of punishment, we know that a lot of the students have been suspended for their hairstyles and so on, right? Do you think, given the fact that the parents are responsible, do you think that they also have a role to play? Do you think that they deserve some kind of, I don't know, some kind of talk or blame or something?
Well, the whole blame is theirs. You know, because listen, when I was going to school, if it is how I left home. I
Don't
didn't come back
that
home.
way.
Mm-hmm.
That was our next conversation.
Yes.
That had nothing to do with words.
Yes.
And on top of that, you were concerned that someone of your parents' friend would see you on the road and report to your parent. But you
Correct.
know, I saw you landed on the road. And if you see the behavior, so by the
Right.
time you reach home, mommy by the door, waiting.
That's when it's to take a village to raise a child.
Right.
That's when, right?
Right. Not when you telling people, don't talk to my child, so
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and those kind of stuff. So the thing about that is that we have to really the whole blame.
Mm.
And anyone having a conversation with me would know the whole blame is on the parent.
Yeah.
Because you are responsible when you washing your child clothes. You see where the pants foot smaller than your child. Foot. You washing your daughter clothes, you know that your child grew in the past 2 years, so definitely the uniform shorter.
Yeah.
You going, you giving them $300, $500 to go and get their hair done. What you think they're going to do? Put cornrows in it? You know, they're coming home every day. You're not seeing that. You're not asking a question. My children were bright enough to know that mommy and the scissors real friendly.
Oh.
Right? So when you come in the house, you and I know the rules. We have a discussion. We know what the teacher already said. So when you come in the house with the hair done, you better be showing me how that is in compliance with the uniform you're going to put on tomorrow morning.
Right.
Right? So you're not coming with nails done. You're not coming with eyelashes done. You're not coming and put on colored lip gloss. I understand you want to wear your lip gloss, but you would not be putting on colored lip gloss. So everything goes, and once you see you start breaking one rule, that hair rule, then you find, well, if I could do the hair, then you know I could do the, and I could do the, and then I could do this. So you see, it's a domino effect.
Yes.
You know?
Okay, guys, unfortunately, we have to wrap up our discussion this morning. I must say it was really nice to have you guys here.
Pleasure
And
is
I
ours.
appreciate all the points, all the perspectives. So, this is the end of our morning show, but don't go anywhere yet. We have GMT coming next. Don't forget to share the live, share the live, share the live.